Folks, look alive. Okay.
We're live.
We're live.
Welcome, everyone, to the Delaware Academy special meeting, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. All right, our first order of business is a presentation by Mr. Jeffrey Ferrara for athletic preparedness.
Good evening. I don't need to use my big boy voice tonight. Good evening, everybody. We are here to present to you the Bulldog Athletic Reset Plan for our winter and fall 2 sports to begin tomorrow.
There you go.
There we go. So a little bit of background. Governor Cuomo announced a return to high-risk sports effective February 1st. When he did that, he authorized, his authorization is based on the County Department of Health requirements. The Department of Health listed requirements that schools had to meet in order to restart athletics. The Mid-State Athletic Conference, to give us time to get these orders in place and meet certain metrics, decided to set a start date for winter sports of February 8th, 1 week after Governor Cuomo issued his February 1st starting date. Immediately, the district began to develop a health and safety protocols and procedures, which we are calling our preparedness plan. So what is a high-risk sport? A high-risk sport is the least ability to maintain physical distancing and or be done individually. Has the least ability to avoid touching of shared equipment, disinfect equipment between uses by different individuals, and not use shared equipment at all. At Delaware Academy, that means basketball, wrestling, volleyball, and football. Those are the sports we offer that fell into the high-risk group. Department of Health requirements and metrics. Tonight, the Board of Education will vote on each high-risk sport. The MAC League has voted not to move forward with wrestling. However, the Delaware Academy Board of Education can authorize wrestling to start in the event we get the permission to do so in the future. The superintendents in the MAC and myself our district has developed a preparedness plan with input from our coaches, our student athletes, the school medical director, the superintendent, our school's COVID coordinator, and other ADs in the area. This plan has been reviewed and approved by Dr. Colheat, our district medical director, and Delaware Academy's 7-day rolling average has dropped to 3.2%. Or Delaware County's 7-day rolling average has dropped to 3.2%, underneath the 4% required by the Department of Health. As of last night, we received authorization from the Delaware County Department of Health to start sports. So our Bulldog preparedness plan consists of the following. It has a participation waiver that each athlete's going to have to sign. In past years, we used a health history form, which we're still requiring for this year, but we're also adding a high-risk COVID form that's going to be needed to be signed by each athlete before they can participate. The medical clearance is in our preparedness plan, and we have many sport-specific protocols. All the COVID-19 protocols outlined by the Department of Health, NICED, and NISPA. Social distancing and masks will happen at all times. Spectators will be limited to essential personnel only, with the exception of one senior night where the senior parents will have the opportunity to come and watch their student athlete. All cleaning and disinfecting protocols are in place. Screenings and temperature checks will happen for every person on site every night. and procedures for arrival at contests and departure for contests are in place. Essentially, as I said at our parent meeting the other night, masks will be worn from the time they arrive on campus, while they're on the school bus, while they're at the game, on the ride home from the game, and everywhere in between. We expect this plan to be followed with fidelity. All of the coaches and athletes will be held responsible for doing their part in keeping this plan intact and providing a safe environment for all of our student athletes to participate in. Everyone is responsible for safe implementation of this plan, from the superintendent to the athletic director, coaches, parents, and athletes. We urge you during your free time to make sensible decisions at home and follow COVID protocols at home as well to keep our sports moving forward in the weeks to come. If you have any confidential questions to report, they can be reported to Superintendent Kelly Zimmerman or our COVID coordinator, Carrie Schultz, and their information is up there on the screen for anybody who needs it. And I commented to Mrs. Zimmerman on her caricatures today. They're strikingly
Accurate.
Some final thoughts. We're seeking to increase opportunities for students where it is safe to do so, and only where it is safe to do so. We realize as a district the safety is the #1 priority. Students and families must be diligent outside of school. Mental and physical health of students is of great importance to us. We feel that the addition of athletics to Delaware Academy will improve the mental and physical health of our students. And as always, participation in athletics is voluntary. I will, at this point, have Mrs. Zimmerman answer any questions
From the board.
Yep, certainly, yes. So unlike when we conducted public forums for our reopening plan, this is a little bit of a different forum. This is not a public forum. Rather, as a formal Board of Education meeting, anyone within our public who wishes to make public comment, our board president will move us into that section of the meeting, at which time, but we will not be moving into a formal question and answer. Certainly following this meeting, I'm happy to remain available for any specific questions or concerns that you may have that can provide further clarification. And that is how we will proceed. So Trustee Haneke?
Yes. Now you will have public comments. You'll have 2 minutes to make a comment if you wish to, and please state your name and your address for the record. Anyone have any public comment? Mr. Wilson.
Jay Wilson, 2066 County Highway 18 in Delhi. First, I want to thank everybody within the school district. The transparency as far as the phone calls, the emails, the website has been fantastic. Right on to, I apologize for Mrs. Zimmerman and anybody else going to work on Sunday at 6 o'clock. But we do appreciate, all the correspondence that everybody's had. I guess with that, I do have a letter to read, apparently the secretary to comment on tonight. I would ask the Board of Education to pass on resolution 61, 62, 63, and 64. Attention Delaware Academy Board of Education. I am the parent of a child attending Delaware Academy, and I am in favor of opening the hybrid sports building. I personally believe that this will benefit the kids in helping them cope with the COVID crisis. I believe that the kids have suffered both educationally and socially without being able to attend school on a regular basis and have extracurricular activities. Giving the kids this opportunity will reduce some of their stress and return them to a more normal routine. Personally, anything we can do to get these kids back to a normal routine would benefit them more than the path they are on. For these reasons, I am asking you to activate the proposal plan for high risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Does anyone else have any comments? Question? No? Luke?
I'm Luke Brandon, senior here at the end, 49 years ago. I'm a three-sport athlete here, and I don't know if I'm speaking for these folks, but sports are how we need bonds our whole lives. And we're about to, us seniors, that's students, overwhelmed and we're going to miss out on the senior year, managing with our fellow classmates. As a student athlete, we've done everything for this opportunity. And it's been a stressful year for all of us, to say the least. But for a lot of us, sports are a way to relieve that stress. And without sports, that's definitely not helping. I just know that we abide by any protocol just to be able to play again. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to take this opportunity to publicly thank Luke Brannigan. He was one of our student athlete contributors to the development of our preparedness plan. So thank you, Luke, and thanks for being here tonight.
Anyone else like to make a statement?
Great. I'm Sylvia Little. I'm a junior. I'm Jody Bright. I'm a senior here at Delaware Academy. I'm varsity co-president or vice president.
Go ahead.
Alex Hayes, senior, varsity club president, 800 Delaware, Delaware.
So we would like to read a letter to you that we collaborated on and hopes that you consider our point of view before you make your comments. We realize this year has been very difficult for all Americans, and we wish to express how it's been hard for us, the athletes in Delaware Academy. To be blunt, we're frustrated, we're down, and we're losing motivation. We've prepared, practiced, and anticipated these years of high school sports for a long time, and for some of us, this is our last chance to play the sport that we love. Others are trying to use athletics to get into college as well. No matter what level of the sport that we play, sports are important, are a very important part of our lives, and they're our primary source of fun and social interaction. Student athletes are playing all over the country and even now in New York, and some of us are feeling very well.
We understand that the restrictions are related to keeping citizens healthy. We encourage you to consider our health too. COVID-19 is real and dangerous, but our health is deteriorating as well due to the lack of socialization, motivation, and physical challenge. It seems like people are prioritizing an at-risk population for COVID-19 over an at-risk population for depression, obesity, and suicide, meaning us. As the COVID restrictions are gradually decreasing, our hopes have been increasing. We overcame the national hurdle first with professional, college, and finally high school sports permitted. We cleared the New York and Delaware County hurdles. The finish line is in sight. Please don't let the final hurdle be the one that stops us. DA Board of Education, please approve high-risk athletics for the students of Delaware Academy. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
My name is Matt Cristone. I live at 26 Elm Street, Delhi. I have a student who's in 9th grade, and I just want to make sure that, I say from a personal point of view, I don't think the average person knows the damage that has been done by removing sports from our kids. And I'm not going to try to convince anybody to care about my situation, but it's real. And maybe people who are, I've heard a passionate argument made by people I'm very close to that are intelligent people that say, if they're not going to school, then it's stupid to even talk about sports. I completely reject that. If they can go to school, let's do that too. But they can play sports. There's a path that's been laid for them. And frankly, I think I know you've got a lot to consider as a school board, but if you were to be the obstacle in this process, I think that's cruel to these kids. And I think these kids said better than anybody else got. The mental health issue is real, and I urge you to take it very seriously. I know you have a lot to consider, but please consider that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Monica Little, 515 St. Paul Road, Delhi. I just want to speak out in behalf of the student athletes who are wishing to play at the next level. For many college coaches looking at our student athletes, they want to see them play in live situations. Highlights films don't matter because those can be edited to look good. They want to see a game situation. So without having a season, it's changing the track of some of their lives because opportunities they could have had aren't going to be available. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you everyone for, go ahead, Mr.
I'm
Nealis.
waiting for it and everybody else.
a lot of people want to speak. So I did have some things I wanted to say, and I just want to make it clear, I am here tonight speaking in favor of sports, but I'd also like it denoted that I'm speaking in favor of all clubs, extracurricular activities, the musical, which I'm glad you figured out a way to do, and solely in my opinion, full-time in-person instruction as well. Excuse me. So first I want to start off educational institution with the definition of health. This is by the World Health Organization. They define health. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. And I think there has been, for all the right reasons, of sole focus on making sure that we do everything we can to eliminate disease without paying attention to all the other aspects of health. You know, Matt spoke to it, these kids spoke to it. There's a lot of other things that make up a healthy individual besides just the lack of disease. You know, I'm a numbers guy, so I'm going to throw some numbers at you. You can glaze over it, or maybe you'll find something interesting. So we have had 26.8 million cases of COVID in this country. 1.8 million of them are in kids aged 5 to 17. So that's 6.8% of the COVID cases in this country are in that demographic. Yet they represent nearly 20% of the population. So there is risk, but there's a proportionate risk. And I think that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. I didn't mention, but I meant to mention, you know, in my opinion, how good of a job this school, the board, the administration, the teachers and staff have done in managing this. The COVID positive rate in Delaware County is less than, or COVID positive rate in this school is far less than that in the county, less than half of that of the country. And doing some math, you more don't appreciate this. With all the COVID cases that we've had, including the one on Sunday and the one today, Delaware Academy has experienced one COVID positive test for every 16,000 contact hours that people have had in this school, with each other, with their teachers, everything. Again, there is a risk, but we need to put it in proportion. I'm going to skip down some of this other stuff. Well, I'll just briefly say. So the World Health Organization, again, what they are coming out with now is saying in most infections or COVID-19 cases reported in children, infection was acquired at home. In school outbreaks, it was more likely that virus was introduced by adult personnel. Modeling studies suggest that, sorry, I don't have my glasses. Modeling studies suggest that closing schools reduced community transmission less than social distancing interventions. So we're taking a lot from these kids for a very tiny benefit. Then one that is sports related, since that's the topic tonight. The University of Wisconsin completed a study, 207, this is related to fall sports, 207 high schools, 30,000 athletes, 16,000 practices, and more than 4,000 games. There were 271 cases of COVID, which is less than 1%. 209 they were able to track and find the causes to. Of those 209, only one was from a sporting event. 55% were from household contact. 40.7% were from community contact. So 96% of the COVID cases in 30,000 athletes were from their house or their community. and less than 0.5% was from participating in sports. I'll skip the rest in the interest of brevity. Again, I just want to reiterate, understand this, but there's bigger issues to focus on too in terms of what health really means.
Thank you, Mr. Nails. Anyone else? Yes.
Bill Braggy, 3934 Maggie Hogue Road, Delancey, New York. I broke out my notes from the Board of Education meet and greet from 21 months ago when I ran for the board. Question number 2 that night was, what's our biggest challenge facing DA? And my response was emotional well-being and mental health. Who'd have thought 10 months after that we'd be, in the first facing this situation, and now we're 11 months after that. Like Matt said and some other people, the mental health crisis is real. I've got 2 boys at home, a senior and a freshman, that are much different dudes than they were 11 months ago. And, we went down to Waverly for flag football, a 7-on-7 thing. We took a little flag for it. But I haven't seen Bryson Tanner, as well as every other boy that was out there that day, so happy, energetic, having a good time. I think this is your chance as a board to fight the mental health thing and make that step and make that change that I said 21 months ago would be a big challenge for you guys. So here it is. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you everyone for letting us know how you feel. We appreciate it. Okay, so new business. Request for approval for Delaware Academy to participate in high-risk sport basketball. A motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Seth, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Lucy. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question, clarification. Mrs. Zimmerman, in the presentation, it alluded to the fact that there would be masks required at all times, but in the plan, clearly does not require masks during activities. Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. For basketball, the expectation is the athletes will maintain mask wearing during play. When they return to the bench, they may be authorized to take a brief mask break, just like we do during the school day in the classroom. The one athletic event that that is not physically feasible to require a mask is that of wrestling. So, and I believe that under the basketball protocols, if you give me a minute. Coaches, student athletes. So on page 6, student athletes will wear face coverings unless they can't tolerate them during physical activity. The clarification on that, however, is not an expectation that they're pulling off their mask during play, but rather if they return to the sidelines, once they come out, they can obtain a mask break at that point. That exceeds what the requirement is that's set forth by Department of Health and by NISPA, where the minimal requirement is as long as they can tolerate that. But at Delaware Academy and in consultation with those who developed the plan, including Mr. Ferrara, the expectation is we have agreed to wear them during play. Same for volleyball, same for football, with the exception of wrestling.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I don't know if Jeff can answer this or Kelly. So when you talk about the county's 7-day rolling positive COVID rate of below 4%.
Correct. Yes.
How do you know that? Does the county call and tell you that, or how do you know that has reached that? Is there, then when we do reach that, what happens? Sports stop? Do they keep practicing but don't officially play? Can you just?
No, great question. So if you look on page 3, there is a link to our county dashboard. That is live and that's updated every single day. And if you go on that link and click by county,
I looked, so I couldn't find the percentage. Yeah, they had a lot of information, but I couldn't find what the percentage was.
Yeah, I actually
That's
have,
okay, I'll keep it later. I was
I
just.
say I have a screenshot of it. If you go to that, and right along the bottom are all of the metrics. On the far right side, it says 7-day rolling average and gives you the percentage. And
So I guess, is it our job, the school's job, to check that every day?
so I do check that every
Call you
day.
and tell you.
Yeah, I do check that every day. And then last night, Mandy Walsh, anticipating that today would be the first allowable start day based on the math, she sent an email to all of the superintendents saying that officially she has been watching the 7-day rolling average. She has established a pattern that has satisfied her metric for that. Now, we did also ask the second part of your question, which was what happens if there's a spike? What happens if there's one day where it exceeds 4%? That is not an automatic stop. So at that point, we consult again with Mandy Walsh and with our Department of Health, and together we examine the cause of that spike. Is there an outlier that caused that, and really, examining the root cause, the potential relationship to that overall with athletics, but more specifically, does this change the trend and her ability to use her judgment to forecast if that will continue to spike or if that was just an anomaly? And then based on that examination, she will authorize us to continue, hopefully. Or she could very well say that, determine the otherwise and acknowledge that there needs to be a stop in play. In which case I would report that directly to Mr. Ferrara.
Either they can practice or they can't practice.
That they could resort back to the athletic conditioning, but they could not practice where there is contact. Mhm. Sure. Any other questions? All right. Sue?
Roll call.
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Seth?
Yes.
Lucy?
Yes.
Sean?
No.
Kimberly?
I'm sorry, which one is this?
Basketball.
Yes.
Yes. And James?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion is carried. Basketball. All right.
602, resolution for approval for Delaware Academy to participate in high-risk sport football. A motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Tammy. Questions or comments for Mrs. Zimmerman and Mr. Farrar? All right. Go ahead, Sue.
Beth?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Seth?
Yes.
Lucy?
Yes.
Sean? No. Kimberly?
Yes.
And James?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion is carried. All right, this is for 603, resolution for approval for Delaware Academy to participate in high-risk sport volleyball. A motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Seth, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Tammy. Questions or comments? All right, begin.
Okay. Beth?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Seth?
Yes.
Lucy?
Yes.
Sean? Kimberly?
Yes.
And James?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Motion is carried. 604, resolution for approval for Delaware Academy to participate in high-risk sport wrestling. Motion, please. Thank you, Tammy. And a second?
I'll second, second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Can I ask Mrs. Zimmerman to read the letter from neighboring school district Walton that kind of, I think, gives some context to the position of our partner that we co-op the sport with?
Yeah, that is a great question. I have been in almost daily contact with Dr. McDonald, the superintendent in Walton, because as you know, we are combined with Walton for wrestling. And so not only do we have a common interest, but we also had a common set of questions and concerns, certainly. And in putting out a communication from Walton to his community, he acknowledged that during the MAC meeting that they voted not to move forward with league authorized wrestling this year. Their feeling was Walton Holding, not knowing where Delhi would stand because we had not yet had our board meeting, communicated that holding a season independently would not necessarily have been feasible based on the recommendations from the Department of Health. There were no other schools at the time in the county or within 30 minutes. 30 minutes was a general radius with which we had talked about traveling within both our league and also as it crossed county lines as being what was commonly acceptable among conversations with other superintendents. And none of those districts were currently approved by their boards to hold a wrestling season. There was only one potential school within those parameters who was considering at the time. Unlike other high-risk sports, wrestling also requires 10 days of formal practice before being able to commence with matches, which would have condensed the season to a far greater degree than other high-risk sports would. We certainly had to also consider the health and safety of our students, considering that in wrestling there's significantly more individual student contact in a wrestling match without masks. The other key factor in the MAC League was not having a schedule, and without having multiple schools within that radius, there was very little competition. Outside of his statement, I would add that even if there was competition, for those of you who may not be familiar with wrestling, they wrestle according to weight class. So not only does there need to be another team to wrestle, but an even matchup of students within individual weight classes to be able to move forward. So given all of those constraints, he had communicated that they weren't moving forward, and that was our general consensus here as well. As another point of clarification, however, although the MAC has decided not to move forward with wrestling, individual boards of education still retain the ability to authorize that within the parameters set forth in our preparedness plan. And that would position us so that down the line, if we wanted to minimally engage in practices, we would be able to do that. However, I don't see us being at a point where we would have viable matches, for those reasons. I also share the same concerns regarding the health and safety associated with wrestling that exist that don't simply exist in other sports. The other option that the board could have would be to table this issue as well until we have additional information, but that again is at the pleasure of the board. Yes.
So the MAC is not doing wrestling?
That is correct. There is no league
If they make that
wrestling.
decision and we decide maybe we do, does that put us, our district in the liability that we're, the league decided not to and now we are?
It does not.
Okay.
It does not put us at liability.
Any other questions or comments?
So I'm just not clear on what I'm voting for. I'm sorry. You just named a couple scenarios that
Sure.
should make it possible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm sat there.
No, if you need to know what you're voting for, so I don't mind explaining as much as possible. Did you want to, Len? Yeah, of course, no, please.
So about a month ago, the Delaware League decided to cancel all winter athletics. A couple of those schools within the Delaware League now are deciding to play. They're going rogue in scheduling games with some of the schools in May. If we were to approve wrestling and we got to a point where it was safe to do so, we could go schedule against others. They would do the ability to do that. What the league is saying is they are not producing a league-generated schedule for the schools in the league. It's really all they're saying.
If we did it, we wouldn't have any Walton participants, right? Because they
I
are,
would think because we're merged, both of our districts would have to be to the council regardless. Something we could do safely.
But because you brought up Walton's board did approve wrestling.
The other thing I want to say though is that the final decision would be the athletic director, the coach. This would just open the door for you to be able to make that decision. This is
Correct.
you're not going to be forced by the board to have a sport that you don't deem safe.
Correct.
So, yes, I just want to make that clear. Any others? Did that help? Any other questions or comments? All right.
Okay, Beth,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Seth,
Yes.
Lucy,
Yes.
Sean,
No.
Kim,
Yes.
and James.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
the motion is carried. Thank you very much, Sue. Okay. So all of our high-risk sports for the 2021 winter season have been approved by the board. So thank you very much, Mr. Farr and Mr. Zimmerman. Go forth. Go forth and compete. Congratulations, everybody. Okay, now we have a personnel appointment for the assistant building maintenance mechanic. Oh, you should call them back. What do you want them to do? What happened? What happened?
She wanted to say something before we got up to leave.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know, it's fine.
They do that, they just leave. All right, may I have a motion, please, on the appointment of building maintenance mechanic? Thank you, Tammy. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lucy. Any questions or comments? Wait, what? Why can't I? Now I want it to be a roll call and I don't know what to do. All those in favor?
There you go.
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion is carried. Congratulations to Anthony Cirillo. A personnel appointment for the substitute teacher. A motion, please. And a second?
Was that Tammy?
Yes, it was Tammy. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried, so thank you to Ms. Solvig Comer. The resolution authorizing the superintendent to sign a release indemnification and assumption of risk. A motion, please. Thank you, Kim. And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Tammy and Seth. You can pick, Sue. Any questions or comments?
I have some additional comments on this.
Okay.
Yes, so in further examination, this was a request from you, as you remember from our last board meeting, regarding the Snowmobile Association of Western New York requesting permission of the district to potentially relocate their snowmobile trail. Now, the cooperation that we've had with the Snowmobile Association is not something new for our district. However, they have run into a complication with the existing pathway that has required them to request relocation of that. So we have looked at and gone back and forth with what their proposal was. I personally walked the path with my snowshoes to check out what they were looking for. Also, I had Mr. Bender come over today and walk that trail as well with one of our head grounds people.
Okay.
And our previous understanding, if you look on this particular map, yes, that's the one, yes. If you orient this so the water tower is at the top of your picture, yes. So if you look at the peak of that white dashed and dotted line, in that vicinity is the trailhead that comes in across the top of our property there. From that point down to this exit point at the corner of the tree line, the pathway narrows. And what we've found is there are a number of fallen trees in there.
Sure.
There's some piles of brush and otherwise that would need to be cleared in order to facilitate this. They are willing to do that. However, at this point, I don't know for certain, and Mr. Schultz, maybe you know, that I want to be sure that their insurance covers their ability to do that type of work or clearing. I know that their insurance certainly covers the ridership coming through the land, but that is my outstanding question that I'm not confident we have answered at this point, which would enable you to vote. So should we be able to ascertain that, we can certainly move forward with a vote on that item. As you see in the copy of the proposed indemnification agreement, can I borrow yours
Of
real quick?
course.
I couldn't find mine at my fingertips here. I also want to draw your attention to the additional special terms that we had discussed a little bit at the last meeting that have since been added, indicating that should this go through, use of the district's property is prohibited while school is in session, specifically between the hours of 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. We also reserve the right to prohibit use without notice for any district events that may occur outside on our property, outside of these hours or on the weekends. The location of the trail certainly has been approved in partnership with the district, and they do not have the ability to relocate that further once it's approved. They're agreeing to maintain and appropriately mark the riding trail in accordance with all New York State laws. They had also mentioned that they would mark a section of the trail for pedestrian use where it is safe and wide enough to do so. We are asking that they limit speed on that trail while they're on our property, and that they will not alter or otherwise clear district property without authorization from the district. So that's the piece that allows this board to act on that. And we retain the ability to still halt authorization should we find that they cannot safely remove the debris that is currently existing. This does not involve any cutting down of existing trees or anything else like that, but I just wanted to bring all of that to your attention before the vote.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we vote?
I want to meet you.
Sure.
Question. What's the significance of red, yellow, blue? So you described the dashed white lines.
Yeah, great question.
Comes up the hill.
Yeah, these are different proposed paths that they were suggesting to us. And the blue and the yellow we had ruled out. The yellow because we were not interested in them riding on our field.
Yeah.
And the blue was because there are some culverts that exist in that area where it just would not be necessarily safe to do so.
There's a house.
Even, and the house there that's owned by the hospital across the street, they may need to seek further authorization depending on how close that path was to that property.
So check that out.
Yeah. So at this point, we're talking about exiting here where that red line
Is that a drive?
extends.
Is that a driveway anyway?
It is a driveway.
It is a driveway.
We don't regularly maintain that, though. It's not something that we normally
Right,
plow.
the snowmobile is not gonna have
So
it.
the yellow and blue is off the table, that's not even
Right.
discussed.
The yellow and the blue are off the
So
table.
where they make the connection is along the red line and then cross to the Smith Pond and down the hill, back to the trail that along the river?
Exactly,
Okay, that
exactly,
makes sense.
yes.
Then my comment was, the snowmobile clubs in New York State are funded, but through, I'm not really sure, tourism or something from New York State. They are reimbursed annually for their man hours to groom and maintain the trails. So I think that you're gonna find that there's not an insurance issue, but I'm not a lawyer, but they all do it.
Okay,
And then, I just want to bring to everyone's attention, they also, in maintaining the trails in the winter, operate groomers on the trails. And that's not something that's been talked about, to my knowledge, of whether or not that's something they're gonna want to do on this section.
is there a concern related to that?
Just
I'm just asking because I don't know.
I think it's part and parcel to snowmobile riding for the most part. I mean, I think it's sort of an expected thing that happens on snowmobile trails for the most part, Sean. I mean,
Yeah,
my
it wasn't
understanding.
talked about, I just
Yeah,
throwing it out there.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I might thinking about the maintenance as something like a volunteer activity, which we have people come on the district and do from time to time. We've had people maintain fields or pick up trash or plant daffodils or something like that. And this could be considered something along that line, sort of improving space versus, and it might be something maybe we feel comfortable if we want to supervise it. I don't know. I don't know how much time or to what extent you're talking about there's something that has to be done. But if it's a morning's work or something like that, that has to have, equipment or something like that, maybe we would feel better if somebody kind of was there while they did it. It's just another pathway I'm thinking about, but I assume they would be volunteering, like you said, to do it, right?
They have volunteered to do the work. I just
Okay.
want to make sure that everybody's covered.
Sure.
They wouldn't have to have contact with the students while they're volunteering to do their work, just so that no one's worried that
Absolutely
people
not,
who shouldn't be
no.
mixing
The
it up.
safety of students was at the forefront of all of this decision making.
And I think the people that have brought this forward are trustworthy. I think they'll do what they say,
Mhm.
and they'll honor their word with this, so
It'll be good for the community anyway,
yep.
as a whole.
Yep.
Our district's here to be good for the community as a whole, so. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion is carried. All right. Anything else? Does anyone have any board comments they want to make before we go?
I mean, I'm ecstatic that these kids are going to be around the sports, but I just have to express my frustration that the same mental issues are affecting kids with the academics of the way it's presented. I know it's not our district, I know it's the state, but I would love if we could do something. I mean, we are seen as a school that initiates things and other schools look up to us for starting things or taking the lead on things. And maybe this isn't feasible at all, and it's probably a lot of work, but I mean, we have a Bulldog athletics reset. I just wish we could maybe do something that we could send to the governor. Maybe he would just throw it aside, I don't know, or the state ed, that just to get, I would love it because they've got to be that full time. And it frustrates me to no end that I think we can do it and I think it'll be fine. Or why do we have to be 6 feet apart in the classroom? Why can't we be 4 feet apart or 3 feet apart and still follow all the rest of the protocols to get more kids in on a more regular daily basis? I don't know. I mean, why can't we come up with some type of, everything that Glenn Neal has said, all those statistics that he just threw out there, 16, I don't even remember how many thousand hours, whatever he just said, as far as, how many contact hours they've had in school since it started, to how much COVID we've had. And just say, and just, here's our plan, we want to do all of this, but we need everybody back. I don't know, I just think we should try. I think we should try. He says no, I think we should try. It's that important, I mean, it's huge.
It is, it's critically important. It truly is. And equally as frustrating. And so you need to know that that advocacy does continue. And I would encourage everybody who are interested in becoming active advocates in your legislature to be writing to your assemblyman and congressman. Where this argument, I think, sometimes becomes muddy is that we have 2 separate institutions that are governed by 2 separate, and I know you know this, Tim, by 2 separate codes of regulations. One oversees our compulsory education, which is the required fact that we need to have students here. Students don't have a choice, they have to come to school. And so we have a set of laws that governs how we must conduct ourselves during the school day, following a certain set of rules, regulations, and protocols, that we have no choice. So it seems a bit hypocritical then to say, how can you say that what we have to follow during the school day, now all of a sudden, because our kids want to play sports, we don't have to follow in the evening? And that's a fair question. However, the key difference is that with athletics and extracurricular activities, there's a component where it is voluntary for students to participate. And we have been given a whole set of different, many overlapping, but conceptually different rules, regulations, rules of engagement, and protocols in order to have the ability to move forward safely. Nobody will disagree with the fact that at Delaware Academy, we have not had one case of COVID that has been transmitted within our walls, right? And Mr. Nealis was right in his statistic, because I did the statistics in my head last night, that our rate of infection, even including the 2 most recent cases, are less than the county average. Because what we put in place is tried, true, and tested, and we've been successful because we've been able to control and mitigate this thing here. We've had athletic conditioning and training happening now for over 2 months. No transmission within that activity. We are moving forward with our musical. I was down here today, this auditorium was filled with kids singing and practicing for the musical. It was wonderful. It happens to be that the most recent advocacy has surrounded athletics, resulting in where we are tonight. But please, I don't want the public to be mistaken to believe that the district is valuing athletics over other extracurricular activities, over music and the arts, because that too is critically important for just as many students. And we will continue to find ways to bring those experiences to our students as well. So your plea does not fall on deaf ears, Kim. It is a valid one, and we are always advocating for ways to come back. We have taken the lead as a district in making sure that our teachers had almost instant access to vaccines. The minute that we even started whispering about availability, Mr. Schultz and I were turnkeying that information and getting people signed up. I most recently had a conversation also with Mandy Walsh at Department of Health, who was asking the question, if we needed to set up a pod at Delaware Academy to bring more vaccines to our community, would you be willing to consider that? I said, without a doubt, right? Anything that we can do to get that much closer to opening our doors to bringing more kids back, we're certainly positioned to be able to do that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Anyone else have any comments?
I want to say thank you for all the effort. I know Jeff isn't here, but Kelly, if you could take back a thank you and a job well done to the rest of the people that had input. I know Luke was here for a bit, and Todd's here. You guys have all committed to a lot of different protocols and practices, and I know that they're being followed. I talked to my kids, and I think you guys are doing an exceptional job of that, and the ability to move it forward in this plan, I think is there. And I have confidence in what you're doing, and I know that you wouldn't bring forward a recommendation without taking it seriously and having the commitment of the coaches down through the athletes. So well done with it, and look forward to seeing the progress and getting these kids back to sports.
No, thanks for saying that. It's truly been a team effort, no pun intended, but it truly has been. But believe me when I say that all participants will be held accountable to uphold the fidelity of this plan. What I can't control is what happens outside of school. So I beg and plead our parents and especially our students, please, when you leave our doors, make smart choices. It's critical, guys. We're not out of this just because a vaccine is out. And if this is something that we want to continue, the board has placed a lot of trust in us to make sure this happens, and we all have a role in that. So I implore you to partner with us to make sure that this can continue. Be smart, socially distance, wear masks, do not go to parties, do not go to public gatherings. We can make this work, but it takes more than just a meeting of a board saying, step forward. I need everyone to partner with us in making this become a reality.
And I think that's the reason we're in the position that we are. Forward with this is because we have put the protocols into place and we have adhered to those.
Absolutely.
All right.
So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Lucy. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Seth, and have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Try to keep warm.